Imagine waking up on a random Tuesday morning, and instead of immediately checking your work email with that familiar knot in your stomach, you just don't, not because you're sick or on vacation, but because for the first time in your adult life, the money coming in from your investments covers everything. Your rent, your groceries, your car payment, everything, without you lifting a finger. That Tuesday? That's your crossover point. And here's what keeps me up at night. Most people have no idea this moment even exists for them. They think retirement is some magical age, 65, maybe 67, where suddenly you stop working. But the crossover point? It's not about age. It's about math. It's the exact moment when your passive income crosses above your living expenses and never dips below again. And once you understand this concept, once you see these two lines moving toward each other on a graph, everything about how you spend money changes forever. So let's break down what the crossover point actually is. Picture two lines on a graph. The first line is flat. That's your monthly expenses. Let's say you need $4,000 a month to live. Rent, food, insurance, everything. That line stays pretty stable, maybe creeps up a bit with inflation. The second line starts at zero, but it's rising. That's your passive income, the money your investments generate without you working. Dividends, interest, growth you can safely withdraw. And here's where the 4% rule comes in. This is the idea that you can withdraw 4% of your investment portfolio every year, adjusted for inflation, and historically, your money will last at least 30 years, usually much longer. So if you need $4,000 a month, that's $48,000 a year. Divide that by 0.04, and you get your crossover number, $1.2 million. That's not retirement money in some abstract sense. That's the exact amount, where your investments can generate your lifestyle forever. The moment you hit that number, the moment that rising line crosses your expense line, you've reached financial independence. Work becomes optional, not because you're old, because the math finally works in your favor. Let me show you what this looks like with real numbers, because this is where it gets interesting. Let's say you're 30 years old right now, you're making decent money, and you decide to invest $500 every single month in a low-cost index fund averaging 8% returns. By age 65, you'll have about $1.9 million. That's enough to generate $76,000 a year, more than $6,000 a month in passive income. Your crossover point happens at retirement age. You did fine, but you worked for 35 years to get there. Now let's say you find a way to invest $1,000 a month instead. Maybe you get a roommate, cut your car payment, meal prep instead of ordering out. Same 8% return, same starting age of 30. This time, you hit $1.2 million at age 55, 10 years earlier. That's a decade of your life back. A decade where you're still healthy, still energetic, and you get to choose what you do every single day. But here's where it gets wild. Let's say you go even harder. You cut your expenses down and invest $1,500 a month. You hit your crossover point at 48 years old, 48. You worked for 18 years, and now you're done. Forever. The difference between $500 a month and $1,500 a month isn't just more money. It's 17 years of freedom. And this is where the psychology completely flips. Once you understand the crossover point, once you see those two lines getting closer, something shifts inside you. That sacrifice you thought you were making, skipping brunch, driving your paid-off car another year, saying no to the bigger apartment, it stops feeling like deprivation. It starts feeling like rocket fuel, because every dollar you don't spend does two things simultaneously. It lowers that flat expense line, which means you need less to hit your crossover point. And it raises that investment line faster, because you're pouring more in every month. You're literally attacking the problem from both sides. There's even a concept called Coast Fire that shows you when you can stop contributing entirely and just let compound interest finish the job. Maybe you hit $300,000 by age 35, and you realize if you just stop adding money and let that grow at 8%, for 30 years, it'll become $3 million. Your crossover point is locked in. You can take lower-paying work you actually enjoy because you don't need to save anymore. The math is already done. Now I know what you're thinking. What about market crashes? What if everything falls apart right when I need the money? And look, these are real concerns. The market is volatile. Some years you're up 20%. Some years you're down 15%. But here's what history tells us. Every single 30-year period in the U.S. stock market has been positive. Even if you retired at the worst possible moment, right before the Great Depression, right before the 2008 crash, the 4% rule still worked if you stayed the course. The math accounts for bad years. It accounts for inflation. It's built on the worst-case scenarios we've actually lived through. The real risk isn't market volatility. The real risk is never starting. It's waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect amount, the perfect knowledge. Because while you're waiting, that rising line stays at zero, and your crossover point stays a fantasy instead of an inevitability. So here's what you do right now. First, calculate your crossover number. Take your monthly expenses, multiply by 12, divide by 0.04. That's your target. Second, figure out where you are. Add up all your investments, retirement accounts, brokerage accounts, everything that's working for you. Third, calculate your monthly contribution. What are you actually investing every single month? Fourth, use a compound interest calculator to see when your lines cross. When's your crossover point with your current plan? Fifth, and this is the big one, find one. Expense to cut this week and redirect that money to investments. Just one. Because you're not sacrificing anymore. You're buying time. You're buying Tuesdays where you wake up and work is optional. Here's how I think about every purchase now. That $300 weekend trip? That's not $300. That's $12 a year in passive income. I'll never get. Forever. That new car payment? That's not $400 a month. That's $9,600 a year I'll have to work for the rest of my life, instead of just once. The crossover point isn't about being cheap. It's about seeing the real price of everything. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Drop your crossover number in the comments. Let's see how close you are. And if this changed how you think about money, hit subscribe because we're just getting started. Your Tuesday is coming. The only question is when.